All right, all right. So we got some content here, and of course we would like to ask our panelists here about some questions. Maybe I will start with Andrea, ladies first. What do you think the TA role will evolve to? Are there some necessary changes which the TA role need to go through?
Well, don't hear me? Okay, there goes. Thanks. Thanks for the question. I guess the TA role needs to develop, needs to evolve because it's a continuous process. It's not like the current need, and TA people need to reflect the situation around us, and as the situation is coming in, we hurry everything, so we need to react to that. So it's about upskilling. It's about being much more personalized with the access to the candidates, be much more proactive about creating and bringing the new ways of contacting people, connecting people, searching for the right group to, and hear their stories, their motivations, why they want to come to join. And am I able in our company to create then the space for it, to fill it in? And is it both way doable for us? And I guess this is the continuous story, and we need to be brighter in that, and let's say even faster, because so far we were much more focused on being only like structured for the processing, and now I see that the need is to go more on the side of talent branding, on my personal networking, and and listening to people around me, and as well using all the automation, not to bother myself with all the admin stories and things like that, and use the great technical helpers, as you described right now, to reduce amount of this time for me, but to have a real time for talking to people and bringing them into the right place. So it's not so much new, but it needs to be much more clever and faster for all of us. Sorry. It's about the upskilling and about this kind of reaching of people a little bit.
I absolutely agree, especially with the thing that I usually say, when it can be automated, automate it, because otherwise if Mikey didn't do it, you want to do the work of Mikey? No. You need to do some work where you can add the added value to the work. Thank you very much. Milos, how about at Microsoft? The same thing.
Wait a second, because after the Johnny's presentation, let's come up with something smart. I think if you look at the unprecedented times we have around us, in terms of what's happening with the market, what's happening with the companies, what's happening with the talent market, and the companies are evolving. So talent acquisition function needs to work together with the companies or ahead of that change, in order to provide value. And if you're talent acquisition leader and you say, I need to transform a talent acquisition organization, it means you have a problem. You need to do a dramatic change in your talent acquisition function. If you have a learning agility, if you have a capable team that is adjusting to the needs of your company or your clients as well, in your case, then you can be ahead of the change, ahead of the curve, and then you can add additional value to your company or to your clients. So embedding this like learner mindset in talent acquisition function, whether that is technical way how to source, finding new tools, automating things, but also, as Johnny was mentioning, and it's fun, like your presentation is pretty much what we are trying to do. Just land the Microsoft logo there, and we're trying to do all of those things. It's actually, this human aspect of it, that how you add additional value, because you're a recruiter, but you're also a part of the talent management function. You also have understanding of proposition benefits, and that's the value that you provide to your clients, to your customers, to internal hiring managers. So it's an evolving journey of talent acquisition function, and I think all of you guys here, on this side are part of that, because that's why you're coming here, to hear about the latest trends, to hear about what companies are doing, and also how can you figure out for your organization to provide value to your clients or to your managers.
I would maybe add one thing. We know it even from the training business, part of our local businesses, training business, recruitment academy, where we sometimes can correlate with the needs of the customers. And for example, in the past 2 years, we can see really increased interest in personal branding for recruiters and for recruitment in general. So HR departments, DA departments, they want to, as you mentioned, for example, hiring manager, they don't have a clue about that, but also from the level of the personal branding, so they can lure more people into their organization. Or even like HR marketing departments, they are thinking like how to take advantage of the network of our employees who are on LinkedIn. They have their own profiles. We have maybe some followers on our LinkedIn company page, but we have the army of people on LinkedIn. If they post something, that would be huge, and let's say for free, kind of. So we can see really a high demand, for example, for this, even for a traditional corporations, not only like things like Accenture, etc., but even like Bosch, Kingspan, and these like manufacturing companies. What's your take on that?
I'll follow up to your last comment there and say certainly we've seen that organizations are being successful with employer branding are no longer hiring an expensive creative agency to come up with a campaign and run it with paid media. They are, as you said, trying to empower the employee to share their stories. And not to save money, but to drive more authentic stories, because I think the talent market is much more sophisticated. They don't believe your heavily branded messaging anymore, but they absolutely believe a sales associate in your team in Prague sharing what a great day she had, or what a great week she had, or the gift her boss gave her for achieving something that she shared on Instagram or LinkedIn. But definitely that's a big trend. If I come back to some of the skills pieces, if you look at our two presentations and you look at some of our comments here, I am always asked, what are the skills I need to develop from our team? And practically our customers say, we want to roll out the following skills or training. But I think structure has to come first, certainly in a scale team. And on the highest level, I look at a modern TA team has individuals who are candidate focused and individuals who are business focused. You talk about a lot of the techniques you were sharing in your deck. They're extremely important to understand if you're in a candidate facing role, how to find the talent, how to engage with the talent, understand their needs. It's very hard to be expert in that and also expert in the business, understanding, as you said, talent aspects, mobility, comp and bends, etc. So I think structurally, to set yourself up for success, you need to make sure you are at the very highest level, having folks who are more business oriented, who understand the business needs and become experts in how do you build assessment processes, understanding the wider view of talent, understanding the business and the team I'm hiring for and their needs. But secondly, you can have a team that are expert in the candidate market. And so it's very difficult today for microphones to work. I think it's very difficult today for our recruiter to do all of that well. It's, I'd argue, impossible. So once you have some sort of reasonable scale, I think the job of the leader is to make sure you have the structure that then can leverage all these different skills and tools.
Maybe a follow-up question to you, Johnny. You mentioned eduployment. We, for example, do with Microsoft eduployment project where, of course, especially on our market, as I said, really low unemployment rate, even in comparison with other countries in the European Union or in Europe. So it's even hard to reskill someone because we are upskilling some sort of people which will be missing somewhere else. And when you reskill someone from hospitality, the person will be missing in the hospitality. Do you have some other examples, maybe not only from these like enterprise companies and IT guys, etc., but maybe from some like maybe hospitality sector or some, I don't know, if you are repairing something like washing machine, something like that. Do you have some examples of eduployment projects, maybe from the UK, US, or elsewhere?
Yeah, I remember. I think it was you who got me onto a website in the US that trained people how to repair washing machines, and it was a site that would give you online courses, and you could get digital certificates. But all the major appliance manufacturers were partners, and they were hiring from this group. So as people graduated from these programs, people like you and I who wanted to learn how to fix their dryer. I had to fix my dryer last month. I took it apart because I wasn't spending 400 euros on a new dryer again, and I fixed it. I watched lots of videos on YouTube to do this, but this was a site that seemed to be just for people to learn how to repair their appliance. But on the back end, they were using the data to understand who was excelling at the courses, and then they were basically connecting those profiles with manufacturing employers who needed those skills. So,
true story, our dryer broken down yesterday.
I think at the time my flight's not even 4 o'clock. I can sort this out for you. But yeah, I think this has always been the opportunity. I remember 7, 8 years ago in the US, I met with the CIO of Hayes Recruitment Group, and he asked me, "What's the future?" And I said, "Your organization, your recruitment staffing business," I said, your customers want talent from you. At the moment, you move talent around, to your point, Jose. I said, but why aren't you creating talent? Why aren't you more of a training company? Why aren't you upskilling and developing people?" And, we had a big chat about this, because I think that is the opportunity for, RPO providers, staffing agencies, anyone providing services. The business doesn't, the clients don't care how you do it so much. Because their clients, the business, want talent doing the job. But even if I push it to the extreme, I remember a good friend of mine who was the global head of recruiting for Intel until last year. He told me how his metric changed. He used to be measured on, cost of hire, time to hire. And they changed his metric to time to ramp. So time to ramp, because the business wanted a ramped up employee doing the job. And recruiters were measured by how quickly it took to hire them. And the manager of sales or engineering or whatever she manages, she doesn't really care how long it takes to hire them. She wants somebody who's productive. And so when you change the metrics like that, you think differently about how to solve the problem. And maybe hiring therefore isn't the solution, because maybe somebody internally or training someone from scratch actually is the better solution. When you really look at the end customer, who is the business, who wants the talent to do work, what do they actually need? And we have to open our minds to how to solve that.
It's basically kind of like washing machine repair, like on Uber style repair. Thank you very much. Andrea, what do you think? Can you elaborate more into what you expect from a TA expert from the perspective of the skill of such a person?
Well, I will continue in what you both guys mentioned, just like because of, and I confirmed that my husband repaired the washing machine just because of video on YouTube as well. So it works, and I guess that's the clever way how to find out the solution for myself if I am seeking for it, just like not it was sent to me to do it, but because I want. And this is the very, very basic I expect from the people who want to join my team, just like how they think about things in a little bit out of the box way. And I don't mean to be super creative, because if you are hiring dozens of IT people, you need to be creative in the way that it's pleasant for them, and not that is a super, I don't know, whatever creative marketing thing. But it needs to be bright, and so the TA profile for me and the expert should be really caring of how the other side is thinking, what's important for them, what's their motivation, and try to find out the places, the institution situations where they can find, where she can find such people. And it's not and again, the person need to be as well a little bit tuned that way, because then they can very easily find out the connection and they can discuss in that way that they understand each other. So now in my team, I have very different people. They would never sit together at one table and have a coffee. They would never met and put together. But now they are doing it, and everybody is very different profile. And it's just because of we have very different business needs, and recruiters need to be a part of the team also mentally. They need to understand the strategy, why business needs such profile. Is there any development in their need for the future, any additional skill we will need to have to search and have in mind? So they need to a little read with them that thought, and then to structure the searching procedure just with this thought in their mind. So it's always about being creative, being smart, and not to be afraid of doing mistakes. Everybody's doing, and the nice way you are able to communicate about it is always the solution. So that's what fits very much in my team, and that's how I try to search for the newcomers. And I do not care really about their previous experience. I do not care whether the person is junior or senior, how long and where is she coming from. I always much more think about the personality, about the way of thinking, about the motivation of that person, why is such thing important for me, what I'm searching for, and I don't mean the benefits and stuff like that. I really mean the place where I want to grow. And then when they are in the team, just the development of the team is not like one platform for everybody. It's again personalized because everybody needs to be developed in their own skills.
I think we can see nowadays that there are personal assistants being reskilled to recruiters, and it's working really nicely. We can see even at Recruitment Academy people going through this without this background. So for you, that would be like a suitable candidate for this role. Thank you, Andrea. Miloš?
Ooh, how much time we have? I won't repeat the motivation part. I agree with everything that you said. I want to talk about competencies, knowledge, skills, abilities, because there are some competencies or abilities that are not related to the recruitment only, but what you want to see. Resilience, adaptability, you want to see learning agility, because then you are creating a recruiter, maybe a business person after that. We had successful cases where we had recruiters moving to the business because you're supporting the business so well, business recognizes the talent and the skill that you have people moving and into different roles. When you talk about the core recruitment skills, what I really want to see is, I'm very passionate about the assessment. That's one of my passions. So we have this thing in Microsoft, we call it screening, like a recruiter who is capable to broaden the talent pool, identifying skills and capabilities in a different places. So if you stick by the job title, the company, and the market situation, and we just see like that's impossible. So having the capability to identify the skills and capabilities in different groups, but also connected to that, you can screen in as much as you want. You need to have the capability to influence the business. Back to your point, everybody's a recruiter, to have that consultative approach as well to do that with your business stakeholders, because you can screen in at the sourcing stage, in interview stage, the hiring manager screening doesn't happen, nothing happens. It's work, it's wasted. And then connected to that is also data. I really, when I'm hiring recruiters, want to see the data skill, but not the data skill, like in a sense, like here's the data. The next layer is data insights. What insights you get from the data? By the way, you need to check LinkedIn Talent Insights. Really, not selling it, but it's really good. It's really good too. But then again, you get insights from that data, but what you do with those insights, that connects back to your consultative approach. And then, also creativity. Give you an example, or if you have a hiring manager want to hire this skill set in Egypt, and the recruiter says, oh, yeah, there's 25 people there. Manager, great, 25 people there. Okay, hold on. 10 of them already work in our company, 5 of them are the partner, so it's 10 left. Great, 10. And you show the funnel, you don't know what the funnel is, but then how do you create a story around it? How do you influence that person? How do you change to another skill set? How do you recognize these people who have that skill set, where they came from? Then you expand your talent pool, then you're screening in the talent pool. And then you have a conversation, is it the right location or not the right location? So all of these things recruiter need to be really impactful at, to consult the business. And maybe I can do this. I just got an email from a hiring manager, if you're fine, I won't mention any names, this morning when I was coming here, from the hiring manager in Microsoft. Let me see if I can find it. This will describe you what I'm looking for in a recruiter. Where is it? Sorry. Okay, here it is. So the hiring manager writing to me feedback on one of my recruiters. And it says, first of all, thank you for bringing amazing energy to our calls, generating energy in the recruitment process. I know it was a busy period, we don't have many positions open. However, I had all time the feeling that you're really driving whole recruitment process and successfully orchestrating all resources internally. Back to my point. Second of all, I know how difficult it is to precisely define this role profile, having in mind uniqueness of the role and specific background we are expecting. So it's a very unique niche role. However, in the second wave, you managed to find amazing pipeline. There was a first search, didn't work well, reflecting, learning agility, looking for different skill sets. Managed to find amazing pipeline of passive candidates on the market. All of them, they came to me and the other interviewers, already having clarity about the role, but also already being excited about the opportunity, which is the outcome of your introduction call and the way how you position the role and the company for. So it was difficult to make a final decision. We have top 3 candidates. We make a decision to hire one of them super finally, but we also build with a pipeline of talent for future roles. So like this is summarizing what the recruiter in an organization that is very complex and very niche needs to do to be successful.
Perfect. Nice use case, actually. Real life use case. Johnny, do you have anything to add to this?
To build on both of those points, I think you're starting with, as Andrea said, the profile of candidates we've seen in the last 2 years. Most modern recruiters, and most teams never worked in recruiting before. They were teachers, they were restaurant managers, many other skills, or many other roles, but the common skills, to Lasha's point, is that they have experience being customer facing. They usually work well under pressure. They're able to adapt very well. They have great listening skills. They have great learning agility. I think these are not only the skills of a great recruiter, but to your point, Lasha, you talked about screening in versus screening out. It's a very important concept, and it's critical to leverage really all the new talent pools we'll have to hire from and the new ways of working. We have to move away from this screening out method, which Amazon in the bar raiser program probably they've begun this, unfortunately, which everyone tries to copy what Amazon and Google do, but they did it 15, 20 years ago, and it may not be right for today. In fact, you need an update to that. And the screening in methodology, both for your own team but for the business, is not only required, it has better outcomes when you're less focused on keyword matching that somebody did the job in this previous role. But to the point of the advisory piece, you won't always get that on a requirement. You have to dig and you have to use those advisory skills to be able to talk to a hiring manager and her team to deeply understand what the person will be doing, translate that into what might be the correct behaviors and competencies, and then build a plan on how to hire for those. And it's hard to source for, like you just did. It's harder to source for competencies. It's easy to source for job titles and skills. And so it just requires a different approach. And I think the traditional expert keyword searcher isn't necessarily the person that we need in the team going forward. But I also think, to your point, Milosh, the modern recruiter doesn't just have a career in the recruiting team. She can go anywhere in the business if she is successful, because those are very transferable skills in the organization to different roles. And it's very exciting to be able to do that from a modern recruiting team.
Maybe final question for me, then we can move if you have any other questions. Andrea, what are your priorities for 2023?
My priorities for 2023 are stay quite the same as are still for this year, because in Deloitte we decided to build up a new IT recruitment team. So now we are at this stage that we have them all on board, and now we need to set them in the team and somehow connect them to all the networks within the company, and let them grow among the others that we have there already now. And this is very, very first. And the other is to work with all the others that I have right now in the recruitment team on their development. We decided, considering all the difficulties they are coming and probably company will face, we don't know. So the very first one is, it was in your presentation, John, as well, is we are preparing for this 4-day week. So we need to set a little bit of processes behind it all. It will take time. There is still a way to go, a long way. But this needs to be reflected in our way how to do the talent branding and talent acquisition. And we will continue in what we are doing right now, using all this flexibility possible for help. We have a rule that we need to be at least once in the week together, like a team, to share. It's necessary. And we still struggle of being overloaded with many tons of administration activities. So again, we will continue reducing it with the implementation of new systems that we are right now going through. And for the next year, we will try to keep all the motivation despite all the negative information coming. We will try to be more productive in terms of seeking for the new faces for the company, because still IT sector is a very big demand, and we need to be more efficient in it. That's why we have this new IT team. And it takes lots of work for all of us, and but it's not like a big new target for the coming. It's the ongoing process for us.
I think building like a new IT recruiters team is big target on its own.
Yeah.
A big task. Thank you.
Yeah, we have like a global focus areas in terms of talent acquisition, and a lot of them are around presentation that John shared. Number one, inclusive hiring. And that includes also internal hiring. And my second part of my role is managing the internal hiring team for EMEA, recognizing the need that we have as well to how do we treat our talent internally, how do we allow them with career opportunities to change roles, because you can check surveys wherever you want. Number one reason people leave company is lack of learning and development opportunities. Mm-hmm. And then all these wonderful things that you're doing for the external talent, sourcing, whatever, videos, recognizing them, sending them, like, you don't do a fraction of that for our internal talent. Where they're already ready to change the roles, who have the learning agility to understand the company, to understand the needs. And of course, you need to provide them with the right experience on that journey. So when I think about my priorities, it's inclusive hiring. It's also recruiter capability, but not recruiter per se capability, recruitment capability for everybody who is in the recruitment process. Everybody is a recruiter. We're rolling out some inclusive hiring trainings, recruitment teams for hiring managers, for interviews. Like, that's also a priority. And we have experience. Like, experience can make such a difference. How do we treat our candidates? How responsive you are when you give feedback? How you give feedback? You have time to give a verbal feedback. We just shoot out the automated emails. Like, there's a lot of work that we can do as a talent acquisition function, recruitment function, anything. Go on Glassdoor, check the feedbacks, from the candidates that interview for the roles, and you see that it's such a big opportunity to provide better experience, because then you create your company followers, you create your fans, you create a sustainable pipeline with talent for the future. Because one good feedback resonates really well. One bad feedback finds much more people, to reach. Compete, not in a sense hiring from competitors, but competing for talent, like that's a focus area. Of course, we have our own internal operational excellence that we want to really increase, and how do we track the process, and how we leverage our tools and all of these things. So quite a big task, but one that really I see the biggest opportunity, especially in the times of the recession, economic downturn. If you get Game of Thrones fans, we just expect dragons to come from north, to attack us. But that's the opportunity to really, tighten up the internal process you have, and really, focus on your internal talent. Everybody will be hiring less externally. This is what I see from talent acquisition leaders. But then the talent that you have internally has much more important role to play in developing your organization in the upcoming year. Hopefully, less.
Point on that, at least unlike the company, you mentioned that they need to use LinkedIn to find their internal people. In case of Microsoft, LinkedIn is their internal service, so they can do that. And
but LinkedIn is not, LinkedIn, if you just take it at face value, it's a great tool. But I just had one of my recruiters pinging me. I just discovered this wonderful talent pipeline, Apple candidates in this country, Central Eastern Europe. I was like, no, they don't have the office there. How do you mean? Look, 650 people. Yes, and I look at it, and I look at my LinkedIn Talent Insights. You know what happened? There's a local company that the local name is actually Apple in English, and then because the profiles are in English, they just tag themselves, they're working for Apple. In that country, it's Yahoo. So it means there's 650 people working for Apple in that country, and if you don't use data insights and really look into it, you will think oh my God, this is great. So LinkedIn is amazing, LinkedIn is great, but also, you also just recently saw a lot of fake profiles popping up, people tagging themselves, working for important organizations, trying to build up their connections, security roles popping up, and you just look at the profile, you see it's clearly not somebody who's working in the security. So yes, love it, amazing tool, but also be smart when using it.
there is actually insider info. There is actually Apple Office with 200 developers up the pre-market at Microsoft Software. Actually, not so many people knows. They actually got a rule that they need to put down the shades every morning. So they are kind of low-profile undercover office. What's your priorities for 2023, Johnny?
So for next year, I'm really trying to follow some of the more mature TA teams that we've worked with for the last few years. And similar to the themes here, we're seeing that the focus from recruiting challenges is moving towards the business challenge. Have the right people doing great work in the business. And it's complicated. I hinted at some of the things today, but it starts with onboarding the talent after we've hired them. How successfully are we onboarding them to set themselves up for success in the job they're hired in, but also in those early months, building a network so that in 2 years, 3 years, they're positioned to get their next job in mobility. How do we change the mind of leaders to think better about internal talent? People, a good friend of mine who runs exec recruiting for a big tech company, he's got 40 exec recruiters working for him. And he said 50% of all their roles could be filled with internal talent. But the hiring managers, the leaders say, we want people from the FANG employers, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google. They hired them 2 years ago. They did a great job. They're now ready for the next role, but they're like, yeah, but they're internal now. Like, I want the external people. They're brilliant, right? So there's a mindset shift with leaders to think about internal talent differently. Internal talent don't necessarily have access to the same opportunities. Advertising roles internally is not the same as actually providing mobility. Mobility is breaking down some of the barriers and some of the structures and the rules we have in place. It's encouraging skill development in the teams. And a lot of that is on the leaders. So we launched a new internal mobility solution and an onboarding solution this year to help organizations scale learning to the different stakeholders. And next year, we're going to launch a leadership solution. Because to me, it all comes back to the leaders, right? How do you have the right talent in the right place? We can have, solutions like recruiting and stuff doing a great job, but our leadership aligned in things like feedback, in driving psychological safety in their teams? Do they think about, trying to assess for skills rather than experience? Are they, encouraging of the careers of their talent? And all of these things really, really important. So it's just, to me, it's a journey that we will all go on. When you solve for recruiting, you find a new challenge. You solve for onboarding, you find, okay, mobility and that becomes a problem. Okay, retention becomes my problem. Leadership skills become my problem. Strategy becomes my problem. So I get excited about this stuff because they're all new problems to solve. New ways that, to me, the solutions are all out there. Everything we need to solve for has been solved by somebody else. But do we have, does everyone understand that? Do they have the motivation to change? Do they have the tools and skills to then drive that change? But if we're hiring the right people with the right base attitudes and motivations around agility, flexibility and openness to change, I think it's all very possible. But it's a long, complicated journey that hopefully we're all going to be a part of.
Perfect. Are there any questions from the audience? Before we go to the catering, actually, Blake chose for us. Blake, we will tell you how it was. No, don't worry.
Apart from where are all the dragons? We don't know.
Okay, maybe I have one. What do you think about, these days we are somehow running away from the humanity because, all of these technologies, etc., etc. So what do you think about it? Like to be back, like more on the basics, when we are talking to people like a human instead of, maybe what I think. Of course, it's my thought. So from your point of view, maybe.
You mean in terms of automation or like this human approach to that?
Yes, of course, automation and online and all of these applications, etc. Of course, it belongs to 2022, but.
Should I take?
Go on.
When you think about, go back 5 or 10 years ago, and how we thought that, this automation, AI, whatever will come to recruitment, we thought it's going to be much quicker and a much bigger scale. It's happening, it's here, but it cannot replace a recruiter, a live person. I said it years ago to my team. Don't be afraid of using your job, if you automate a part of your job, it'll be something else in the function that you will be able to do. And if they automate, interviews, then there's a smart candidate who will automate answers to the interviews, and you will again need a person, to step in and have a deeper assessment. So people who are coming and joining the companies, you need to have a story for them. You need to be a human. You need to reflect the culture of your company. So new generations, old generations, we're all looking for something more than just a job. We look for flexibility. We look for inspiring people to work with. Most importantly, people look for purpose. But then if you can provide a purpose for that person, you need to be in communication with them. So when you have a great recruitment team who represent your company in the right way, or great in storytelling, showcasing what you need to do, they give the purpose. You need to have the entire organization, as Johnny said, in that entire chain have a similar story. Everybody has a role to play. And then it's a dance with the candidate. You cannot rely on AI to do that, dance with the candidate, understanding their capabilities, understanding their motivation, adjusting your approach. But also, for me, culture is the most important part of it. We assess people if they are not going to be a culture fit, if they're going to add to your culture. And that's a tricky bit. You don't want clones of your people, you want people who will bring something new. And that's difficult to assess. But when you get in that mood, when you recognize the skills and capabilities, when you position that candidate to a hiring manager that can add something additional to their team. Not being the same as 10 people they have, but bringing something new, and then you cannot replace that with any automation. You need recruiters, you need smart people, passionate about recruitment, and you have to add storytelling to the list of capabilities that is very important to be successful in this function.
Amen. I fully agree. And just a very short answer. From my understanding, it's great that we have lots of possibilities for all these automations and the technical support which we can have. It's good that recruiter knows about it, and it's good to choose which one of it will help me in my work, because I need space and free time for talking to people, and to have it, all these technologies should help me. So it needs to be balanced, and the balance should be left on the people to decide how much of their personality fits rather to the technical support, or if they are more personal, focused, driven people, that they want to rather have face-to-face interviews and not to spend time on or hours on searching on LinkedIn and other technologies. So I would love to have a team that they are aware of all these support things, they can use it, and they can select which one they will use, and to have it in their balance. And I fully understand, and I very support that the personal touch is the very base for everybody coming now in the situation of finding a new job. People are a little bit scared. That's what I feel from. It has changed after COVID. It's even more visible that the young generation is asking for a kind of freedom that is and guidance from the very beginning that wasn't so obvious years ago. Now they want to be sure that they will have the space for their free time, that they will have a space for the development within the company, and that it will make sense for them. And it's a very clear message they are bringing at the very beginning, so we need to be prepared for it. And it's about the communication, face-to-face interaction. I know that it's not possible in all the companies. If you are hiring people from abroad, you cannot have this face-to-face, but still using these technologies at least to have it online and have their face visible and discuss what they really desire for, and to have then a feeling that you can find it in our company and it will be way winning.
I would just quickly add that maybe the company Frenchy, I think you showed that they wanted to be human oriented, but there were no human left for them. So they needed to put a human into the machine. And I think it's proven that people in general, when they want to solve something, they rather solve it by putting the question into Google, YouTube, unless calling, for example, somewhere and have the human-to-human conversation. That's why, for example, maybe also in McDonald's, etc., you have these cashiers, you can click everything. Sometimes maybe we feel it like, as you mentioned, that we want to be like human-oriented, but sometimes people, I think, for some certain tasks, they don't want to face a human being when it's possible to do it quickly. That's just my take on that. Johnny, final words?
On the McDonald's example, my friend Roberta was the HR director for McDonald's in UK and Ireland when they brought in the kiosks. And I said to her, well, it's great if you reduce the amount of staff. It's great cost savings. No. We don't reduce the amount of staff. What we've been able to do is redeploy the people who were all stuck behind the counter to go around the whole restaurant and drive the restaurant experience. That was the strategy. It wasn't to reduce the amount of people. So automation wasn't about cost saving in the initial implementation of that. It was about getting people out from behind the counter, which is the equivalent of all the admin work we do as recruiters, so they could go out into the restaurant and talk to people and say, hey, can I get that? Thank you, you okay? Bring you your lunch, do you need anything else? To drive the experience. I think that is the trend. That's what we would want. It's redeploying humans to do the human jobs and getting us away from the stuff that we hate doing, don't want to do, and machines can do better.
All right, I think it's all. If Alicia, if you want to have final words, of course, come here. And of course, we will be here networking. So if you have any other questions to our panelists and Johnny or me, we are here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Costa basically summed it up. So I just want to, on behalf of GoodCall, thank you to all of our guest speakers, Andrea Filipova from Deloitte, Milos Rekic from Microsoft, and Johnny Campbell from SocialTalent. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you can join us for a cup of coffee.
There was a tense time when a lot of the Microsoft managers were saying, no way, they have to do way, and whoever it was talking about there was some new people who grew on legacy like people. It was the early days of such